All right. Everybody hear me okay out there? I'm hoping everybody hears me. Fingers crossed. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me. That would be awesome. We can hear you. Fantastic. Okay, because before I was having all kinds of problems, so we're all good. Fantastic. So thanks very much to Melissa and Jay for hosting, and thanks very much for having me here tonight. Well, it's early for you guys. It's very early in the morning for me. It's 1 a.m. at the moment, but it's all good. So my name's Greg. I'm a freelance designer and illustrator based in the UK, near London. And if you're on social media, you can connect me here at Phoenix Studios. I mostly use Twitter, Instagram, and Behance. So if you're on any of those platforms, feel free to give me a little follow. Or if you've got any questions after this, then feel free to connect with me. And yeah, let me know if you need anything. You can also check out my work at phoenixstudios.co.uk. Right. So to give you guys a little bit of a background, kind of my journey so far in design, I started all the way back in 2001, and now looking at that number, it makes me feel very, very old indeed. I feel extremely old. And I've worked with several different companies and agencies before then, and then finally went freelance in 2014 and founded my own company, Phoenix Studios. But while I've done a lot of client work over the years, I also make a point of doing personal work as well in my spare time. So kind of like as I've been kind of working full time, my personal work, I've been doing that in the background as well. So what kind of stuff do I do? Well, so I do a range of things. I quite like variety. Variety is the spice of life, as they say. So I do everything from branding to illustration, to web design, app design. I mean, I've even had to design things that go on flags, which is something I'd never done before, but I gave it a go, and there we go. So I had a bunch of stuff go on flags. And over the years, I found that, it is really the variety that keeps me interested in design. It's what keeps me going. And in terms of the tools, I typically use Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign. I also use a bit of After Effects as well now and again. So that's kind of my client work, but I also have kind of another side to things, and that is that I do a lot of personal work, as I mentioned. I do a lot of music and movie posters sort of on the side. So while I'm doing my kind of 9 to 5, I do this late at night, typically at 1 a.m. if I have time. So, and the kind of tools I use are Sketch, Illustrator, Photoshop, and I tend to use an iPad to kind of start the process off. So this is kind of like a little selection of my personal work. So today, as it's kind of a graphic design and illustration class, I thought I'd actually go through the process and show you how I designed one of these posters. In this case, it's my Bohemian Rhapsody tribute poster that I made a couple of years ago, must be now, probably when the film came out. I'm pretty sure that's when I made it. So I'll take you through this now. So the whole process really starts with a sketch, and I think it's important that no matter what you're designing, whether it's a logo or an icon or an illustration, doesn't matter what you're designing, a sketch really can help to get your ideas down and start the creative process, because there's nothing worse than trying to kind of make something and expect it to kind of be done very quickly. You need to kind of get your ideas out there. So I typically start with a sketch. This is where the poster started. You can see on the left, that's like the full sort of view of the poster. Then on the right is a bit of a zoom in close-up of it. So start with a sketch. Best way to start anything. And then after that, I tend to refine my lines with a kind of an inking, sort of a comic inker, to try and make it a bit crisper, and it would kind of refine things and get rid of those sort of sketchy lines and try and make it a bit crisper. And in Illustrator, usually you put your sketch into Illustrator and then you can kind of refine it and make it into vector, which is a lot better. Then I continue by adding some base colors. I think color is an amazing thing, but at the same time, it's very easy to kind of let things get out of hand very quickly. So I kind of start with 1 or 2 colors, trying to kind of like establish the tone of the piece, trying to work out. So in this case, I actually wanted to kind of start with purple, was the main kind of primary color I wanted to use. I then go through and start adding darker shading to try and help make the piece a bit more defined using Illustrator. I then picked a highlight color, which I tend to try and use a contrasting color. So here I used yellow to go with the purple to try and make it a bit different. I feel like if you use a contrasting color, it tends to kind of help the piece stand out. That's kind of what I tend to do. And then I added more detail into the background. So I used like clouds. In this case, I used clouds at the bottom because I wanted it to seem like he was kind of like bursting through the sky, as kind of was the whole concept behind the poster. And then finally added a bit of type at the top, which I did in Photoshop. And the whole concept behind this piece was that there's a line in the film that's to punch a hole in the sky. And that's kind of what the whole piece was kind of like based on that line. So I wanted his arm to kind of go through that O and sort of break up that O. It's kind of what I wanted to do. And this is the final poster. And I actually ended up printing a couple of these for myself and my family. I've actually got one behind me at the moment. This is kind of what it ended up looking like. And yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work, but it was definitely worth the effort, 100%. So in terms of some technical tips, I'll kind of go through sort of some of the points I discussed a minute ago. It's like, number one, as I was saying, always start with a sketch. It always makes things easier later on. And it doesn't matter what you're designing, a sketch always helps. Even like a little tiny thumbnail sketch in a tiny little notebook can help you get your ideas out. Add color in stages. So rather than trying to do lots and lots of colors all at once, try a couple of colors and see what they look like and just see how you go with that. Pick contrasting colors in your design or your illustration. It'll definitely give it more depth and kind of make it sort of stand out, definitely. Experiment with different apps. I mean, I know this course is kind of mostly about Adobe Illustrator, but this project was made with 3 Adobe apps: Sketch on the iPad, which is where I started it, then Illustrator, and then Photoshop to kind of refine things near the end. So definitely try some of the other Adobe apps as well. They're all really good at doing different things. So some apps are better than others in terms of certain things. So definitely experiment and give it a go. Try and do different things. As a designer, you need to kind of be flexible. That was kind of like the technical advice. This is kind of more the real world advice. What I would say learning after 10, 15 years is you really do need to be flexible as a designer. So, clients really do want all kinds of things. They want websites, they want posters, they want business cards, apps, the list goes on and on. So I would definitely say that, while sort of specializing, a lot of people tend to specialize. I think, being able to design various things has really helped me during the time that I've been designing. So these are all examples of things I've done over the years. And yeah, definitely flexibility is a must, I would say. And then the other side of things is also, focusing on your passions, because if you do design every day, sometimes you may not feel motivated to do it on the weekends or when you're at home. You may not feel like it. So you've got to kind of focus on your passions to kind of create your own design work. And that's kind of what I'm doing, is like I'm really into music and movies. And so as a result, in my own time, I've kind of like started establishing this kind of design, sort of rock design is kind of what I've been doing in my spare time to try and kind of like keep developing my skills further. So that's it, guys. Thanks very much, and rock on. And like I say, I'll be here in the chat to answer any questions, and feel free to connect to me on Twitter, Behance, or Instagram. Thanks very much.
Awesome. Anyone have any questions for Greg while we've still got him? That's really awesome, Greg. I love it.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, great stuff. You have one new Instagram follower at least, and it's me.
Hey, amazing. One is always better than 0.
Yes. You're getting
love the rock
love.
robots. Nice.
Awesome.
Appreciate it, guys.
Perfect. Look at that. Everyone is just loving it. That makes me happy.
Awesome.
All right. Well, I'm going to release your screen sharing duties.
Thank you.
And
Pressure's off now. Oh.